Today I want to talk about the unstoppable future of love and respect. Well, first of all, prepare yourself. I tend to get a bit cheesy, but this is just the way I roll. So, I think it's probably depending on simply just the existence of the human race that in the whole history, love is followed by hate. Glorious times by disasters, insight and understanding by narrow-mindedness. Every generation experienced the ups and downs of the society, like myself. As a kid from Austria, with a very changeable history of brutality and discrimination, but also full of love and hope, I experienced these changes by the stories of others and, of course, by myself. I grew up in a very small village in Austria, a very conservative one, and I received the biggest change in my life by accepting the way I am and realizing that this is the key to happiness. There are changes all the time, but my dream of a future where love is followed by respect and not by hate is far away. One of the biggest disasters in the history of human beings are diseases. One of these is AIDS. They used to call it gay cancer in the early 80s. And yes, it was kind of true. Most of the infected people were gay men. Back then, nobody knew why. Nobody knew about the risks. And most of the people thought of a punishment of God. Because being gay was against God's will. And that's why they had to suffer. I think with this ridiculous picture in mind, a huge social problem appeared. People blamed the infected people. It's their own fault. They deserve it. One of the most awful things about AIDS, of course, beside the fact that we haven't ended yet, is if somebody died because of cancer, it was an innocent victim. If somebody died because of AIDS, there was nothing innocent about that. Well, I said was, but unfortunately, I think it still is in any kind of way. No other disease still depends so much on the biography of the victim. That's what, unfortunately, many people still think. So we still haven't reached this future where love is followed by respect. I received a letter a few days ago. And first of all, I have to say I'm very honored to get this. I'll just read it out to you. I think it says it all. Dear Conchita, from one artist to another, I send my congratulations on your triumph at the Eurovision Song Contest. What you do today is not about your career, which I hope will be long and successful, but about your soul. Last year in Vienna, I told the live ball audience that ending AIDS was about ending the stigma and shame that clings to AIDS. And to the groups most at risk of disease, the LGBTI community. Intravenous drug users, people in prison, people working in the sex trade. This is a message we cannot just pay lip service to. It's one we must embrace. Through my personal commitment to ending stigma and the founding of AIDS Foundation, we are continually working to remove the barriers which prevent some people from protecting themselves and those they love. Confounding prejudice, challenging discrimination, finally forcing people to honestly see one another as human beings is the only way we will end AIDS. Through your honesty, you too are sending a message that being true to yourself is the most dignified and compassionate way to live. I urge you to share this message at Live Ball today. I urge you to repeat that it's only when everyone, wherever they live in the world, is free to come forward for health advice and health care without facing hatred, that we will win the fight against AIDS. And what's more, we will create a kinder society. Sir Elton John. UNAIDS announced in 2012 that over 35 million people are HIV positive, that there are about 9,000 new infections every day, and about 2 million people died because of AIDS. I was born in 1988 with the privilege being raised with so many informations about HIV and AIDS that protecting myself was an obvious and natural thing to me. So much changed from 1988 till today. So many things in a good way. I think we need to take this knowledge and this wisdom to create this future where love is followed by respect. Just to list a few things which changed for the better. Well, first of all, gay people, the picture of gay people in our society. Being gay in the early 80s used to be a fact. You had to hide. It was not normal, and AIDS was the right punishment for us. People believed in that, but a minority of affected people and scientists raised their voices. They changed the picture of the LGBT community in our society. Suddenly, gay people became experts. They appeared in the media as competent people and were not seen as scurrility for the first time. This was a milestone for the human rights of the LGBT community. The second thing is the community itself. They realized immediately that they had to do something. Enlightenment work started. They realized that this community grew from mostly gay people to a community of people who suffered because they lost. They lost their friends, they lost their partners, and they lost their kids. It became a community of people who lost someone they loved above sexual orientation they found together. Third thing to mention, politics. What happens if I die? This question appeared, I think, a bit sooner because of AIDS and HIV. Especially gay couples ask that. So what happens if we die? What remains of our love? Fighting against all kinds of discriminations for living our life. What remains after the pain? They wanted the politicians to give them the same rights as straight couples have. In 1989, Denmark, a country which I have a very close relationship now, was the first country in the world that gave gay couples the opportunity to make their partnership official. This great thing was because of a very sad situation. Well, what I want to say is, I'm a person focusing on the good things in life. I believe in positivity, and I mentioned it before, I'm getting a bit cheesy now. Even in the darkest hour, there will be light. And by the examples I mentioned before, you can totally see that there's always something good within the bad. Don't get me wrong, I don't want to play down this awful disease. I just want you to focus on the progress and focus on ending HIV and AIDS. So the future of love and respect actually started way back in history. It starts every day, because all bad things include something good. Respect the bad and love the good. Thank you.
So.